Have you seen a Jackie Chan film lately? Hello and welcome back to the Coop-a-Log. Here we have a few good films this week, which is week 16, starting with the 13th of April, Monday, Chinese Zodiac. Relatively recent Jackie Chan film, i.e. that is tying back to a callback, a flashback to the beginning question, because I think most people have stopped following Jackie Chan ever since the heyday of his very popular as well, and then of course he had a stint in Hollywood, some of that better than others, and now he's actually comfortably making movies in China, mainland China. And I've been meaning to watch some of these for a long time, and this here is the first one that I have. Also, by the way, I asked, like, oh, have you seen Jackie Chan film lately? Like, he wasn't in that ridiculous film with John Cena not that long ago. That was a Netflix film, but I don't think anybody has seen it, and I don't think anybody should. I think some of these will probably end up being decent, and some of these complete waste of time. Chinese Zodiac is pretty decent, I have to say. It starts off with a bang. I think the roller blading, skating, suit, stunt is... I maybe would probably go down as one of the cooler Jackie Chan stunts, I have to say. He knows how to start a film. This was done in 2013, so he's still not that old. So he can still do some of that stuff. And in terms of the synopsis, a group of thieves embark on a journey to recover 12 artifacts to sell, and they hide their motives to become allies with a group sympathetic to the cause of national treasure repatriation. So just because of that synopsis, you can see how this could be a little bit political, and I would assume this was not by accident. And I do not mind films being political or about something. It is not very subtle in terms of its political message. I respect it for that. Many might claim this as a little bit of almost propaganda based, but you know what, considering how so much of the culture is being whitewashed, so much of the culture is being amalgamated into the monoculture of American imperialism. Also, wouldn't expect to see something like that from a Jackie Chan film, because it starts off as a regular Jackie Chan film. He is just his usual self, playing Jackie Chan, and he has the same jokes in a sense, and the general style and feel of a Jackie Chan film. I don't have to explain what a Jackie Chan film is, I hope. And in a sense, that was really the surprising element, because it's great to see a Jackie Chan film that is still a Jackie Chan film, even in so late into the after 2000s or 80s when he was very big. Yeah, it has some really good fight scenes, there are some good stunts, but it's the political aspect that really caught me off guard, and ended up me giving this film maybe more credit than it should, because you just don't see an action film like that have a message and be somewhat anti-capitalist. And for some people that would be, oh no, this sucks, this is propaganda, but I think this is a decent message to have, in the sense that so much history has been plunged from across different eras, regions, and is sitting in museums and sold to the highest bidder, and this is specifically an answer to that. And you just wouldn't expect a Jackie Chan film to have that kind of message behind it, especially where he is not so much the hero in this story, but he has a character arc where he goes from a thief that is with a purely capitalist motivations to then becoming sympathetic to the cause. And that character arc there is not nuanced, but it's good. It's good to have. It's better than what most Hollywood films have nowadays, which is nothing. So, you know, thumbs up to that. It's probably not so much a commentary of how good the film is, it's just commentary on how bad the current Hollywood landscape is, specifically with Netflix slop, that I would give such high regard to the lowest a level of complexity to a film. On Thursday, 16th of April, I watched Blades of the Guardians at the BFI IMAX actually, which, and I say this is a theme because this is also a Chinese film. And look, I actually have quite a bit to say about this one. I was pleasantly surprised, and we're starting to see Chinese blockbusters being given these bigger release windows and bigger cinemas, and starting to pay attention to that. And it is interesting to see China starting to produce more of those blockbusters and specifically target the Western audiences, or maybe now we just have distributors that are open to presenting these films to the bigger audiences. Of course, they still get very limited release windows, but to even get an IMAX screen, I think, is a testament. And also a testament to how open the BFI is with its programming, and that's why one of the many reasons why I like it as a cinema and BFI as a. The synopsis: a bounty hunter takes an escort mission for the Empire's #1 fugitive and goes on a perilous journey where family drama and past also play a part. So it's not like Fury Road, where there's an escort mission and they're trying to escape, and it does end up having more complexity on top of that. Gets a little bit melodramatic at times, but it's good to have a movie do something. I would say this is way better than most modern Hollywood blockbusters. For one, it is not playing to any IP, even something like F1, which did pretty well last year. That F1 is still an IP. People know what F1 is. And there's of course the IP of the actor, which still does exist to a certain element, although that is not as big of a thing as it was back in the day, I suppose. Whereas this is, as far as I know, is also based on a story or some kind of thing. It was specifically a comic story, I believe, or something. I've not done too much research on this. But I think my highest praise is how earnest the film is, because it does not try to subvert the genre or try to be too self-aware to the point where it ends up being this meta-critique, or, as I said, the subversion of the genre, because this is a martial arts film, so that would be the wuxia. So I hope that I pronounced that correctly, and not something you see too much of nowadays, at least in the Western side. Of course, some years ago there was the breakout hits with very famous Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and The House of Daggers. There was a score, of course, as well, Hero by with Jet Li. I think those are the three big ones that were relatively popular enough, at least in the Western public conscious, whereas ever since then I don't think I can name a single breakout that many people would even know of. Since then, this is my only exposure to the genre since then, so my enjoyment of this probably does tie back to that a little bit, because it's novel, but also in terms of the simplicity that I mentioned, where now we have so much different subversions and so much reliance on trying to have grounded stories where villains need to have backstories, because we have so many plausibles now where we'll be, well, you see, I don't think the villain motivation was not well explored enough, so I cannot believe it. Because nowadays people treat films as, first of all, as moral compasses that they have to align with, or the film is not worthy of being enjoyed, or they cannot justify enjoying it, or we question films on grounded basis as if characters are not explorations of specific themes, instead of, oh, but people will treat them like real characters so they can attach to them, which is uniquely of the time's criticism in terms of the audience, and the films are starting to adopt that, which I do not like. It's nice to see good guys with their own moral code be good, and bad guys just be bad. But we also have bad guys who are prisoners of circumstance, but it doesn't beat you over the head with flashbacks of trying to explain why this character is specifically like this. This is looking specifically at you, anime, because I think there is quite a lot of overlap with anime in terms of just the flashiness of it, and some characters specifically being very over the top. But in this genre, in this work, it really does fit well. And of course, when it comes to any martial arts film, we have to talk about the choreography, the fights, which the action here is great. So there's really dynamic camera work here. And it's specifically great to see those action inserts, to see the impact, where we are in this era where in Hollywood right now there is a big emphasis of having very long takes and the camera being very pulled back. Fair claim to say is that John Wick popularized this, and I was never a big fan of it, I'll be honest, just because it ends up making the action feel a little bit sluggish. There is the emphasis on realism, and the performance is very respectable, commendable, and many people will latch onto that. Oh, it's so realistic, but it ends up losing impact. In terms of that, it's still impressive how much choreography they have to learn, how performative it ends up being, but something like a Jackie Chan film balances the really intense and complex choreography with action and impact inserts. Think of it as like a sentence. Some sentences have a few words, some sentences have very many words when they're leading to a point, and then you have a short sentence and it ends with an exclamation point. It's like a question and answer type style of editing of an action fight, and sometimes you have to have an answer, whereas in some of those John Wick style action scenes, it's just a lot of words being said without any meaningful point to it. I think that's my critique of it. Specifically criticize John Wick. I think John Wick is one of the better examples of it, but I think even John Wick Chapter 4, for example, one of my favorites, I think one of my favorite action films of all time, but it has elements where I'm just kind of watching it and I'm being a little bit bored. But Blaze of the Guardians is nothing like that. And then, again, at the BFIMX, I do love a week where I can go to the BFIMX several times in a week. And this was actually a bit more than that, because it was a full day at the BFIMX. So this was Master and Commander, Yojimbo, and Akira, which is one hell of a lineup. So I was there from the morning until the evening, essentially. And there are two big highlights here. So Master and Commander, this was my first time watching this. I think I'm very lucky to have experienced that on the big screen. This was a Q&A screening as well. Not specifically that Russell Crowe was there or Peter Weir, who directed this, but he did film an introduction for it, which was very nice to see. It was a pleasant surprise, but a lot of the cast members were there. In terms of the synopsis, the film follows a British captain and his crew as they're tasked to hunt down a powerful French vessel who ends up, tarnishing their ship, so they must face a range of external and internal obstacles as they either complete their mission or not. A lot of things you can really discuss here in terms of the first of all, the way it explores the actual environment and what it's like to be on the ship. I think that politics of it all, specifically the power dynamic between what it's like being a captain and a crew member, and the type of challenges and how ego is involved there, and what it's like to lead, and the way that explores all of that, I think it's almost like Moby Dick type story where we almost have a Captain Ahab type character here, but it has its own nuances there, and the phenomenal story, phenomenal scale, great acting. I think this is a film that many men specifically love, because this is specifically about duty and valor, which is this almost dadcore type story, and canon of films where I think Gladiator is probably at the top there, and this is very close behind, I would say now. And I think what specifically makes this one so special is how it is focused more on the internal conflicts of the characters and the politics of what it's like to be on a ship, the balance between ego and duty, and where there is, if there is a line there at all, what the consequences of that end up being. And it has some really big dramatic moments with great performances and just the commitment to the scale. Apparently a lot of this was filmed with miniatures, with models, and that's why because of that the film holds up phenomenally. The scale, it's just really great, and I really recommend this to anyone, and I hope that somebody manages to catch this in a cinema, because I think the scale of this film in a cinema is unparalleled. Next up, Yojimbo, the Akira Kurosawa film, a bona fide classic here. In terms of the synopsis, the film follows a bodyguard for hire who enters a village where there is a turmoil between two specifically gangs who are fighting over the control of this village, and he pits them against each other to increase his demand, so to speak, and then within that, his morality and the politics get explored. It is oddly comedic in the sense that that whole premise gets explored with the extremes of how he manipulates the one gang against another gang, and what I think sells it all together is just how good Toshiro Mifune is in being in this role, and he's a very campy actor, which is why I think Kurosawa really liked him so much. And for example, look at his performance in Rashomon, where he plies it up so much, and then he really does go all in all of his roles, whether it is being extremely gruff or being extremely over the top. Similar in Seven Samurai, where he plays his character, who is also very over the top. Here he is over the top, not so much in the comedic sense of where he is too cool type samurai, which I think was probably the origin for many of the anime tropes, for example, in terms of the cool guy comes into town and does this and that. And of course this was extremely influential in terms of the American films really copying this, with spaghetti westerns in particular. And I haven't seen too many of them, but at least I've read that, so if I made that up, I don't know, blame the internet, because I read something and I believed it, because I can believe that Hollywood does not make anything original, and it just takes other films and copies them, sometimes bringing a little bit something new. But I think it's very well documented that Seven Samurai has been specifically copied, and I think, what is it? Didn't George Lucas go specifically on record saying that Akira Kurosawa is a big inspiration, specifically The Hidden Fortress on Star Wars, and I assume just in general a few other elements as well. And in here, what I think is particularly outstanding about Yojimbo is the staging. It's the layers, it's the camera work, the way he finds a way to make use of blocking and staging to create this dimensionality in a film where we will have the full frame has something that is conveying a message, where he will position the actors and the camera so carefully to where it's to the point where I would question, did he write the whole film in mind with this frame? Or did he just come up with this idea? It's like, oh, for this, let's add this scene in because I want to make this kind of shot. There are some really just particularly beautiful ones where the two gangs come out to fight each other, and Sanjuro, Toshiro Mifune's character, and goes on a tower there that is between the buildings, and the camera has the Sanjuro in the foreground and the one of the gang members on the left side and then the right side. And that seems like the type of filmmaking where there's very many conscious choices and creative decisions of intent. This really has intent written all over it. Filmmaking that is very impressive, and it doesn't feel very inauthentic and fabricated. No, there is a genuine level of artistry, of craftsmanship and intent that you can just feel being present in terms of specifically the staging and blocking. That is just a sign of really talented filmmaking. To me, that is the biggest highlight in terms of the film. Next up, Akira. I hate Akira. Not Akira Kurosawa. Akira Kurosawa is great. I mean, Akira the film. I don't know why this anime did get this big IMAX release recently, specifically to the point where it was advertised in the London Underground, because this is not something you see a re-release of something being advertised. I know it's been a little bit quiet so far in cinemas, so maybe they found a spot where there was a gap in the release schedule where they were like, oh, let's just release Akira, people will love that. Of a cultural icon in the West, in terms of anime in general, as my understanding is that this was one of the earlier animes that did break out in terms of popularity in the West. And maybe that's why it's specifically so well regarded, because while it is visually very impressive at times in terms of the scale and the beauty, but in terms of the story is absolute garbage. I hate Akira in terms of its story. It's dumb. I have very high level of tolerance for anime bullshit, and Neon Genesis Evangelion I think is the greatest work of all time. So I have this level of tolerance for anime being weird, but as long as there is a point to it. So Akira is a film which is named after not even a character in the film, I would say. He's like the super god whatever thing. And the most of the screen time is being spent on Tetsuo, who gets the superpowers and goes crazy, but the actual main protagonist is this Kaneda, who is absolutely unlikable and uninteresting as a character. It's a complete mess of a film. Like, I have, as I said, I have a tolerance for anime weirdness, but when there is a point to it all, and I don't think there is a point to anything in Akira, it's just randomly just going on into a lot of different directions, does not end up satisfyingly concluding anything. Exploration of this dystopian society, the technological advancement where people lose humanity at the cost of technological advancement, but it doesn't do that in a interesting manner. It just says, oh yeah, technology bad, without really, I don't know, explore it. With the whole point with those kids, the old kids who have these superpowers, it's so annoying. They're weird and they're stupid. It's stupid. Akira is stupid. I hate Akira. I do not even want to sit down and give this film the benefit of doubt, where I'm like, well, actually, that's what it's commenting on. Because I don't think it is. I think they wanted to have a lot of cool visuals, and it has some cool visuals, but nothing more, no substance to attach those visuals to. There is, of course, some, as I said, there are some themes, there are some ideas, but I think they feel too divorced from the characters specifically. But most of the screen time is spent on Tetsuo, and the main protagonist is Kaneda somehow. And Kaneda has no actual, he doesn't want to do anything in this film other than chase this girl specifically, which is, it's stupid. It's stupid. So I hate ending on a negative note, but there was enough good things said in this specific. So, you know, hope there is some highlights there for you. I think there's enough recommendations there, and if you're a big Akira fan, I'm sorry if that offended you, and there's probably somebody who is willing to say I'm really wrong. I am probably a little bit. Maybe one day I will reconsider and learn to enjoy it, but I think it's just culturally significant in the West, but in terms of the film as a whole, it is not. The thing with Akira, it came out at the right time and the right place. And that's how it became so popular, but I think in the general anime canon, it doesn't have much significance. And that's it. That's all I have to say. So, see you in the next one.